YouTube community, David Beard fans, ESQ fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens. We are here today with David Beard. We're going to be chatting about the Beach Boys Grammy special coming up on Sunday, April 9th. Hey, David, how's it going?
Fantastic. Thanks again for having me on. It's a joy.
Absolutely. So, this Grammy special coming up, a lot of people are excited about it. A lot of modern groups taking on Beach Boys classics. Of course, the guys are there. What are your thoughts on this salute for the 60th anniversary? Do you think it's a fitting sort of ceremony for them? What are your feelings around this whole event?
Well, if you remember when we talked initially for my interview with you, when I was talking about the Grammys, my initial thought was that I didn't make a connection to all of these acts all the acts that are going to be on the Grammy special. And then I started thinking about it, and I realized, I was able to kind of get out of my own way a little bit in my thinking, which was initially, it's kind of like, I'm 58 now, and I've been a Beach Boy fan for so long. It's my own desire, I think, to see certain acts, because I was thinking back to when I saw the lineup, the first thing it made me think back was to David Leaf's wonderful 2001 TNT tribute to Brian Wilson, where I had all these acts on it, Billy Joel and Elton John and Jimmy Webb and Carly Simon and so on. And I related to all those acts because I knew music by them and I could relate. And it was easy for me to say, oh, okay. And I know David Leaf well enough to know that he sought out those acts because he knew that they had a love and affection for Brian. So that was kind of the connective tissue that I made. So when I saw this lineup, that was kind of where my mindset was still like, okay, how many acts, how many of these names have I seen interact with the Beach Boys, work with the Beach Boys, or have some sort of connective musical tissue? Now, upon deeper inspection, since our last conversation, I went back and I looked at it again. Now, Jim James just worked with Brian a few years back for Brian's Long Promised Road project for the Right Where I Belong. Was that the name?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah. And that's a pretty interesting song. James has got a really interesting falsetto. And then I saw some footage, like a clip of Jeff Beck. I think it's the first Grammy promo trailer that they put up for this tribute show that Tom Hanks is at the beginning. And there's like a real brief clip of Beck and Jim James doing Good Vibrations.
Yeah.
And I stopped it and I went back and just looked at that. Like, it's only there for like 2 or 3 seconds, but I went back and looked at it, and you can hear, there's just like a brief second where you hear Jeff Beck. Yeah, Beck is not Jeff Beck. So sorry. I've been thinking about him because he unfortunately left us. I was having a conversation with someone the other day about Jeff Beck, but Beck doing the Mike Love bass.
Yeah.
You can hear it for just a second. I'm picking up. It's barely there, but it's cool. And I just thought, okay, the guy from My Morning Jacket next to Beck, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Absolutely.
So then once I picked up on that, even though it was so brief, that the Grammys has kind of been trickling out the performances here and there on their website, on the YouTube channel. So I've been looking at those, and I have to say, you can feel the heart in every performance. You can see that the performers, regardless of whether I know them or not, they genuinely care about how they're delivering the music or the song that they've chosen, and they genuinely care about the song that they've chosen. Now, when it comes to the Grammys, I don't know enough about the process to know, do they throw out a blanket invitation, see who answers? I don't know any of that stuff. So I don't know if or if they get like maybe an agent or the publicist for the individual says, hey, this is coming, would you like to be in the line? I don't know how that process happens. So it's impossible for me to speak directly to how these performers or individuals ended up in this song selection. But now Mike Love, as an example, has worked with Hanson dating back to they did It's Okay together.
Yep.
And then they did a Christmas song off of Mike's Reason for the Season album as well. So they know each other. So that there again, so Jim James has worked with Brian, Hanson has worked with Mike. And I was actually kind of almost hopeful before this announcement came, and I did see the final lineup, that maybe The Weeknd was going to be in here, because Bruce and The Weeknd worked together last year. So I
That
was
would
just
be
kind of,
cool.
I was optimistic, I was kind of like, well, I don't really know enough about The Weeknd, except I saw him do the Super Bowl halftime back in 2020.
Yeah.
But I don't know enough about, I do have Dawn FM album, and I think it's quite creative.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hopefully, thinking it would be cool. Now, I'm not up enough on modern music to know all the names but John Legend, wasn't John Legend in the BBC version of God Only Knows video? Was he in that, or am I
Geez, I
thinking
can't
of
remember
someone else?
now. I can't remember.
Because that's a handful of years ago. Do
Yeah,
you remember that video though?
I do.
It had so many
It's been a
people in it.
long time. It's been a
But I
long time.
remember I thought it was Legend sitting at the piano singing it.
It could have been. It could have
But
been.
I don't know if I'm
remember.
getting that right or not. But so I went back, I looked at the song selection, I thought, okay, first of all, like from a set list perspective, this is pretty cool. You got a small handful of songs that are from Pet Sounds, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And, You Still Believe in Me, Caroline, No. I Know There's an Answer. I mean, just right there, you've got me, because those are wonderful songs. I mean, let me put my glasses on here. So as I get older, my vision leaves me. So, but just going through here, like Pentatonics, I know that group, and I've had people out of all sorts of walks of life, because they know I'm a music lover, will say, hey, have you checked out the Pentatonics Christmas album, or have you checked out this by them, or whatever. And it's always fascinating to me, because I sing in my church choir. So knowing that they did Heroes and Villains I'm looking forward to that. Just from what I imagine the vocal execution will be like.
I mean, that song, you can do that song a cappella, because there's so many different parts you can just pick and choose to be an instrument.
Yeah.
That's going to be fascinating to hear that one done. Yeah.
It really will be, because you remember now, by that time in Brian's career, 66, 67, that's when he was getting into using their voices as instruments.
Yeah, right.
So that to me is going to be I'm really looking forward to that thing. We also saw a snippet of Michael McDonald in Take Six doing Don't Worry Baby. They show him long enough that you can see him, don't worry, baby. So I was like, I love that voice. And I think Michael McDonald has actually rejoined with the Doobie Brothers, and they're out on tour together. So that's
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, now I was surprised to see Foster the People, because I remember them being on stage with Maroon 5, or Adam from Maroon 5 with the Beach Boys in 2012.
Yeah.
Good Vibrations, but Foster the People were also on stage with them.
That's a surprising one, because I know they were still a band. So that's a surprising one.
So I don't now Brandi Carlile. I will say this about Brandi Carlile. It was sometime last year, and I don't remember when it was. I want to say the fall, but I don't know if that's accurate. I saw some footage with her with Joni Mitchell. Like Joni Mitchell had returned to the stage for the first time, and it was just the most. I watched it and I wept. Yeah. I wept, and I thought, this is just so not achingly. That's not the right word. It's just beautiful. It was just beautiful. Yeah. And it just had it was just so, you could see how much Brandi Carlile appreciated who she had next to her.
Absolutely.
You could tell that this was someone who appreciated and loved music. So that's kind of my impression of Brandi Carlile. So if she brings as much love and heart to her performances in this, because she does In My Room by herself, and then does God Only Knows with John Legend, if she brings as much heart to those performances on the Grammy tribute as she did with Joni Mitchell, then it's going to be a home run. Because
absolutely. I mean, like, she's super talented. Her latest record, In These Silent Days, there's a couple of songs on there that just blow your mind. There's one called Right on Time, and that song is just gorgeous. Like, the amount of emotion in it is unbelievable. So I mean, hearing her do In My Room is gonna be really far out, because I think she'll really pull it off, because she gets inside those songs really well.
Do you know who Andy Grammer is? Because I don't.
He's just a pop singer. That's all I know.
Okay. I don't want to cheat and look him up on Google. That would be wrong.
Yeah, I have friends who have seen him in concert, but I couldn't tell you anything by him, unfortunately. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah. Because sorry, Andy. But yeah, so it's like interesting when I mentioned the TNT special from 2001 for Brian. the one act that made no sense to me, because whatever happened to him was Evan and Jaron.
Oh, geez. Yeah, they were coming. They
What?
were here and there. Yeah,
You know,
they were
I
big
don't
at the
know how that
time.
happened,
That
but
was
so
it.
I don't mean to mix that with Andy Grammer, but because that may be in a completely, I'm not doing that, but I just remember that from the 2001 TNT tribute, that was the one act that I just thought, who are these? A, who are these guys? And B, how did they end up on here?
No,
But
Andy's been
because
around
it
for a
was
while.
interesting, because Justin Wilson, Carl's son, Justin, had actually done Do It Again, I think, with Carney and Wendy.
Yeah,
And then maybe even China Phillips. I can't remember. She was a part. I think so. I think it was Wilson Phillips
I
and,
think
and
she was
Justin.
there. Yeah, I think it was right after John Phillips passed away. I believe it was right around that time.
Yeah, and I think the four of them did Do It Again together, and then that was left off the DVD,
Oh, that's interesting.
which was disappointing,
Yeah,
because again, family, right? It's just this
yeah.
family, and Justin is one of the sweetest human beings you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Um, but Nora Jones, there's another well-known singer, great
Yep.
voice. The Warmth of the Sun. I'm sure that's going to be beautiful.
That song has always been picked by good people.
Well, yeah, Bruce Johnston, Jeff McAvoy, who went on the Beach Boys Good Vibrations cruise, had written a review of that cruise, and we posted it up on the ESQ site. And one of the
Yeah.
things that he pointed out is Bruce will tell you almost to this. I guess it came up, and there was something. Oh, you know what? It may have even been in the Grammy tribute clip, because there's an Al Jardine clip up and a Bruce Johnston clip up of both of them on the Grammy YouTube channel. And
Yeah.
I think that's where I think that's maybe I've been watching and listening to so many different things over the last week. I'm getting things confused, but
Yeah.
I think it's in the Grammy thing that Bruce mentions, his favorite song, just really special song is The Warmth of the Sun.
Oh, yeah.
So
He
that's,
said it for years.
it's an interesting thing here. So we also have God Only Knows I Want to Be Nice, two more Pet Sounds
Perfect.
songs. And then you got some of your, John Legend doing Sail on Sailor will be interesting.
Ooh, that'll be good.
He's
I'm
got,
looking forward to
I
that.
don't think it'll be quite as, what's the right word? Oomph as that Blondie gave it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it would be sweeter, but I think it'll still be really special.
Yeah, if you put emotion behind those lyrics, you can sing it any way you want to. That's a powerful song.
No, I don't know. I know the group name Little Big Town, but I don't really know enough about them. But they'll be doing Help Me Rhonda. And
Yeah, they're a country group, so that'll be interesting.
Well, that will be, it almost reminded me of, was it T. Graham Brown who did Help Me Rhonda off of their 96 album?
That sounds right. I'll take your word for it.
He was the guy who did the Taco Bell commercials. He was like, it was almost like, what's the guy's name? Big Dave Osborne. You remember him? He would sit on top of the bus, and the bus would go underneath an overpass, and he'd get knocked off the bus. I always thought of that when I saw those Taco Bell commercials with T. Graham Brown.
That's funny.
It was like, make a run for the border or something, and he would be playing. I'm probably confusing the two from my memory, but so then you've got now here's another, again, this is me just kind of probably not being familiarized enough, so maybe you can help me. Luke Spiller and Taylor Momsen doing Surfing USA and Fun together.
That'll be interesting. Luke is from a band called the Struts, and he's got a very almost Freddie Mercury-esque delivery. And Taylor's from the Pretty Reckless, another rock and roll group. But that could be a lot of fun. Those are good early rock and roll songs. Their voices could blend real well for that. So that's going to be interesting to hear that one too.
I want to say that was the one that's also got, there's like a little clip of it in the Grammy promo.
I did see a bit of that with the two of them on stage.
Where he's licking up the guitar pretty.
Yeah.
The one guy's just blazing on the guitar. I think it's Surfing USA that they show, and he's just tearing it up. Because is Taylor a female singer?
Yeah.
Okay, then that is the clip that I'm. Yeah.
Yeah, she's been with the Pretty Reckless for probably 10 or 11 years now. They've been around for a while. They got a handful of albums, and the Struts are great. They're out of the UK. Great band.
Cool. I'm glad I have you here to help me because I I don't. So who is saying? Well, let's go all the way down to the bottom with California Girls. Weezer is going to be doing that. You have a history with Weezer. Tell me about when we talked before, you mentioned that they were big fans of the Beach Boys.
Oh yeah.
So maybe you can share with me and your viewers, what a little bit of specific where Weezer, where you have where you've seen their influence, the Beach Boys' influence on Weezer and how that's played itself out.
Absolutely. Well, Weezer wouldn't be Weezer without the Beach Boys. The lead guy, Rivers Cuomo, was a big metalhead, Kiss fan, all the 80s metal bands. And that's all he knew. And he moved to California from Connecticut in the late 80s, early 90s to get a job and try to join the music scene out there. And he got a job at Tower Records. And one of the guys who worked there was like, hey, man, check out Pet Sounds. Check out this album by the Beach Boys. Here's what the Beatles sound like. And he was like, whoa, this kid was blowing his mind. He was a long-haired metal guy. And they started putting Weezer together. And that first album is big, chunky, metal-influenced riffs, but with harmonies, vocal harmonies. And they did a couple of songs, like there's a cover of a song called My Eveline, which is just all barbershop quartet stuff. And Rivers would have gone to do covers of Don't Worry Baby and Surfer Girl just on his own, just kind of messing with stuff to learn how to sing and layer stuff. So he's very influenced by the Beach Boys, and the rest of the guys are too. But a couple of weeks before they did the Grammy show, they played California Girls at a private concert, and the video is up on YouTube, and it's awesome. Like, they do a little bit of their own thing at the end. They make it their own. I cannot wait to hear the fully realized version of that one. That's a game changer.
So this was taped. This Grammy tribute was taped in February.
Yeah.
So you're saying they did a private gig like late January of this year?
Yeah, it was early January. It was literally a week and a half or 2 weeks before that Grammy show got recorded. Because like a couple people reached out to me about it. They're like, "Hey, have you seen this? They're doing Weezer. They're doing the Beach Boys live." I'm like, "Oh, this is great." So that's gonna be cool. That they're huge fans.
Oh, that's that. You see that does my heart good, because that tells me at least. And again, because I don't know how these people get onto a Grammy special. I don't know if they've kind of waved their hands. The publicists reach out to. I don't know the process. So as for all I know, everybody in this lineup is hardcore Beach Boy fans. But the big picture here, but I don't know one way or the other. But the big picture, but everyone here, Leanne Rimes, my Morning Jacket. So I guess on I Get Around, Jim James will come out with the full group.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool, because My Morning Jacket's definitely a sort of psychedelic influence band. So I bet they're big fans of Smiley Smile. I can definitely see them being really into that album.
Jim James, you can tell, was certainly in awe of Brian. From what I understand from director Brent Wilson, who did the Long Promised Road documentary, and Jason Fine spoke to that too when I interviewed the two of them. So I am keen to see that. So people know. Let's tell. So it's going to be televised Sunday, April 9th at, I think it's 7 Central. Is that what it is? It's 7 Central, I believe.
Yeah, on CBS.
It's it's going to go from 8 to 10. It's going to be on CBS and then on demand on Paramount Plus. So if you miss it on the CBS and you have Paramount Plus, you will be able to watch it afterwards.
So cool.
And there's going to be, I guess, like the video thing, when somebody's actually not there, but they're going to do a video thing.
Good.
It's listed here that you're going to have Drew Carey, Tom Hanks, Jimmy Jam. I'm not sure who Jimmy Jam is, though. Elton John, Harvey Mason Jr., that's not a name I'm familiar with, Bruce Springsteen, and John Stamos. Now, I know Stamos was actually there and on stage, and because they show that in the promo, that Stamos was actually there at the Dolby Theater when they filmed it.
Nice.
So he came out a couple of times. I don't know if he introduced different acts but he was definitely on stage at one point. I think he entered the little segment they show is he talks about great guitar licks, and I think they show him introducing the Surfing USA fun thing, because he talks about the early guitar, and he says to David Marks, he said, "Right, David." I mean, he just looks up in the thing. He says, "Right, David, those early guitar." Because for anybody watching this, if for some reason they don't know, the Beach Boys began with two different major influences. The one being Brian's love of harmonies, which were inspired for the most part by the Four Freshmen. And Brian had also grown, had developed a love for George Gershwin's music from his very young age. But it was Carl and David Marks who were taking guitar lessons from John Moss. Now, John Moss went on to become one of the Walker Brothers. So you can only imagine, and what David and Carl were learning were well, one of the things they were learning was the chunka, 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 chunka thing.
Yeah.
Carl, in the meantime, just had a deep, deep love for rhythm and blues. So you had the John Moss influence on what they were actually learning. And then what happened with the Beach Boys sound as it progressed through the years, like especially on Wild Honey, as your first early indicator, was where Carl's love of rhythm and blues kind of slowly leaked into the group sound. But that did take time. So this is a really interesting lineup of songs. It's not just top 10 hits, because You Still Believe in Me was never a top 10 hits. Well, who's St. Vincent? Do you know who St. Vincent is?
Oh, she's great. She's one of the best. She's an extremely talented guitar player and a really great vocalist. She can do like really light, sort of pretty stuff, but also she can really rip it out. So what song is she doing? Does it say?
You Still Believe in Me.
Oh my God, that'll be fascinating.
So when she gets to the I Want to Cry.
Oh, she'll nail that. She does really great falsetto. Her vocal control is insane. I've seen her live a few times, and I've got all her albums. I mean, she's like, that's a really cool song for her to dig into, because she can make it just weird enough. She's kind of a quirky artist. Her guitar style is really angular. She has these really cool, insane riffs. She comes from a metal background as well, but she's just very talented. So this is going to be really cool here.
Okay, that's fantastic. So see, I'm glad that you and I are having this discussion, because now I could have sat and gone and Googled everybody to try to figure out, who is this person? Who is this person? Well, so the bottom line is, if anyone is my age that might be watching this, or in their 50s up, kind of just thinking, what's the point? The Beach Boys didn't perform. They just sit up and enjoy the show. That's what I would say to anybody who's watching this, if they're on the fence of whether or not to tune in. And again, it's nice that it will be going to Paramount Plus, that people can watch it after the fact if they don't initially catch it. But definitely. I just think as it relates to, just from the perspective of celebrating who the Beach Boys are, that they're being given a prime time position on television in this day and age, is because otherwise the Beach Boys aren't on prime time anything.
No.
You can go see them in concert, which is nice. Mike and Bruce, and Al's getting out there still doing some shows.
Yep.
So go to aljardine.com to check out his. You can go to find out what Mike and Bruce are doing on the road, and they've got a lot of dates as usual. You can go to thebeachboys.com or mikelove.com. Both of those sites have the dates. And now Brian, I don't think is doing any more shows from what I understand, but you never know. That can always, maybe he'll do a one-off show here or there. Yeah.
No touring, but probably one show once in a while or something.
I'd like that. His band is just so phenomenal. Both, and that's the thing too. Since we're talking about this Grammy special, and I think everyone kind of really will sing the accolades of Brian's band as well. They should.
Absolutely.
But I think it's very important that we give equal acknowledgement and appreciation to the band that Mike Love has backing him up.
They're great.
It was a beautiful thing in 2012 because it was almost like a combined band.
Yeah.
And it was just phenomenal. Even Nelson Bragg running out doing the cowbell. I miss him. I miss his presence. He was a hoot. But they're just so uber talented. All of them are uber talented. And that's why, if you go to get, I've told people this for years, and I don't know who the Grammy backup band will be. I don't like, if it's Mumford & Sons, the whole band, or My Morning Jacket, the whole band, they may, it just be self-contained band. But the Grammy may be providing some instrumentation or orchestration back there.
You might, yeah.
what's amazing about Brian, even though he may not be touring anymore, I've always likened Brian's shows to going to see an art exhibit.
Yeah.
There's not as many beach balls bouncing around. Somebody might do that, but that's
Yeah.
not really the emphasis of what Brian's shows are about. And
Yeah.
even in later years, Brian may not have sung as much as he did when he first started touring.
Yeah.
But again, I felt like it got to a point for me that I just thought, oh, every venue they choose should have like a pulpit down in the front where Brian can sit in a recliner and we can all sit around him and we can all watch the what the artist has done. You know,
Yeah.
and just leave Brian off the hook, because as you and I said last time, they don't owe us anything, right?
No.
They've done so much already.
Nothing. Yeah.
So to me, Brian's shows are like art exhibits, and Mike's shows are fascinatingly enough, because the guy is 82 now, and Bruce is will be 81, I believe,
Yeah, that sounds right.
in June.
Yeah.
That you can still go to a show with guys that age, and the general age, the average age of the band members are my age or right in there, like 50s, 60s, you know,
Yep.
so that you can go to those shows and feel young.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is in and of itself speaks to the body of work that is being celebrated in the Grammys.
Young music. Yeah.
So I think if anybody is on the fence or had that feeling like I initially felt of, I'm not so sure that this is going to be interesting. The Beach Boys don't come down and perform themselves. And I just kept thinking about that because we just discussed it before. And I just kept thinking, this isn't about that. And that's the hardest thing when you're a fan of something, is being able to kind of remove yourself from your own desire, your own want of whatever it is you think they ought to be doing.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have this very interesting and varied group of musicians performing, for the most part, very well-known recordings. And now you've got me a little bit more excited for You Still Believe in Me, because I'm not, and that's going to be like the second to the last song. Now, if the song list here is in the order of appearance, and I don't know that it is.
Yeah.
Because it just says performances included in the special are as follows. It does not say in order of appearance.
Oh, I got you.
So I don't know if Weezer will be last or not.
Yeah.
But if this is the order of appearance, then St. Vincent would be right before Weezer.
Cool.
But I don't know if it'll be interesting to see how they do this. But it's going to be it is it's fantastic because the guys are getting recognized.
Yes.
2, it's cool that they were all there to enjoy it and appreciate it and see and experience the love that all these artists have for their body of work. Because, okay, maybe none of these songs, I'll give you an example. David Marks is there, right? Now, he didn't write any of these songs, but there's no getting around his guitar influence on those early songs.
That's his sound.
Like Surfing USA. There's no getting around it. No getting around it. He's there. There's no getting around it. So, and that, I think, in a way is a way to appreciate and love the early guitar spirit of Carl Wilson. Same thing. Now in the studio, fun lead guitar, I think, was played by Glenn Campbell, if I'm remembering correctly. But the guys had to learn it and they performed it on stage. So it's not as though it wasn't something that they owned. It was very much their own. So
yeah, absolutely.
This is I think longtime Beach Boys fans, and I'll only speak for myself, but as a longtime Beach Boy fan, you see songs performed or put out on Greatest Hits or Sounds of Summer or whatever it is, and you grow so accustomed to them that you end up feeling that they're also rants. Like their level of importance is not that of the more artistic or expressive stuff or something, I've found myself in those pockets of thoughts at times. But the truth is, it's all important because you don't get the 60th anniversary, you don't get a Grammy tribute show without earning it.
Absolutely.
So that's what I say to that, and I think that this looks, from what I've seen from the promotion, and anybody watching this, go out to YouTube, look up if you're watching this, you're on YouTube, so there you go, and look up the Grammy channel. They have their own channel, and again, there's it's roughly 2 to 3 minutes long of Al talking about the early days and how his mother lent them the money to get the instruments. And so there's one up with Al, there's one up with Bruce. I'm hoping by the time they actually air the special on April 9th that maybe there'll be one with David and Mike and Brian. I don't know. I'm hopeful of that, though. But you never know. But I definitely think that being this older kind of fan, it doesn't matter. This is I'll tell you, as I said, I got like Sounds of Summer kind of became the disc that I take out in the summertime. And in 2019, I was in the hospital. In fact, today marks my 4-year anniversary from when I had stage 4 cancer. Wow. And I was in the hospital for 2 months, and I got out in late May of 2019. And the first kind of major thing I went and did, where I went somewhere, which was like a little over 2-hour drive, my younger brother drove us, was to go see Mike and Bruce put on a show in Biltmore in Asheville, North Carolina. It's a beautiful day. And we went up there, and they stuck us on the side of the stage, and we had our own speaker. If you ever watch the show from the side of the stage, regardless of the group, it doesn't sound very good because there's
that way.
Yeah, it's all facing the audience. But they had this little VIP section over to the side where people were sitting, and they had a speakers exclusively right there, over to the side of where Tim Bonham is. If you look at the stage, Timmy is usually to my left, if you're looking at the stage. So we were over there in the corner, and we had our own little speakers so we could hear the thing great. And I was looking past the stage, looking out the other side of the stage, and it was the mountains and the sun was going down. And it was the most healing experience coming through my situation as I had. Yeah. And I remember listening to Sounds of Summer in the car, not that day, but around that same period. And it really kind of like making me feel so good inside. And it's like I needed it. And so that concert and that disc really kind of brought me kind of back to just a simple way of saying it is that music does truly have healing powers.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I felt. I really felt it. In the concert, I mean, I felt like after the show was over, I felt like I had been really lucky to attend that show. And it just feel to look out at an audience having a good time after I sat in 4 walls with people poking and prodding at me for 2 months, just the freedom of being outside, and then having the ambassadors of California music, just kicking ass basically. So that's I would say to anybody watching this, if you're an old fogey like me and you're like, what's the point? I'll tell you what the point is. This music, this group being celebrated in this way is not a mistake. It's I get it that these songs have been around forever. We all know the songs, but I just think it'll be really cool to see someone present them in a different light. And I especially, like you were saying and touching on, it'll be really interesting to see how certain groups because there's always, during any tribute, some groups just kind of stay true to what the song is and they do it and it's done. It's cool. Sure. But then there are other groups who put their own little kind of, touch on it, their own little magic dust. They'll do something slightly different that you won't expect. So those are the kinds of things I'm really looking forward to.
I am too. I mean, especially because I heard that little bit of Weezer doing their thing a couple weeks before the actual show. It was one of those moments where, like, they played the song pretty faithfully, but then they did this little thing at the end. And I hope they do it live on the Grammy show, but they did this little thing at the end for maybe 30 seconds. But it was just enough to be like, whoa, it's Weezer, but it's the Beach Boys. It's a really cool blending of worlds. But I hear you completely with, like, I think a lot of people do kind of take for granted the early stuff because it's not Surf's Up and it's not Sunflower.
Right.
And for me, I go back to the early stuff fairly often because that's what got me into the band. Like
Yeah.
today I was driving around and Catch a Wave came on. I was like, damn, this is a good song. There's so much going on in this one little tiny old track. It's like, it really blows your mind. So it's going to be really cool to hear these artists who have been making a name for themselves, imagining them in their room in high school with their headphones on, playing a Beach Boys CD to themselves and like trying to discover how to write music. It's going to be cool to hear them pay tribute to artists that influenced them big time. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it will. I'm glad that I listened back to our interview because it made me kind of question my own way of looking at it. And I just thought, I don't know if I was really being fair, because when you, and what triggered it was you said, well, Weezer's huge Beach Boy fans. And I went, okay, well, wait a minute. I'm not really looking at this from an informed perspective, right? I'm not informed enough. I know the songs. I just, what will this show look like? So I think any Beach Boy fan out there at least should watch the show once, so they can either watch it when it happens on CBS or end up watching it on Paramount Plus. But either way, I highly recommend it. There's not many groups who get celebrated on the Grammys for 60th anniversary. I don't. What's the list? How many is that?
For bands that have stayed pretty much together the entire time, it's like them and the Stones. That's about it.
That is about it. I mean, there's not, and I don't know that the Stones have had a Grammy salute. I know Paul Simon had one, but I don't know how many groups have had that are 60th anniversary. Maybe we're talking about one group right now.
This might be it. Yeah,
so this is significant, and again, it speaks to. I know it's a cliche term for them, but they are truly, I think, genuinely America's band. They are. They are. I mean, America's dysfunctional, and so are they, right?
Well, that's perfect. Yeah. Perfect isn't real.
In their own beautiful way.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So I want to reiterate, everyone, this CBS and the Recording Academy honor the legendary career of the Recording Academy Lifetime Achievement Award recipients, the Beach Boys. On CBS presents a Grammy salute to the Beach Boys Sunday, April 9th, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the CBS television network, and it will be available to stream live and on demand on Paramount Plus. And then it says a 1-hour version of the tribute will air on MTV at a future date to yet be announced.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I guess they're obviously, again, they're trying with these other artists, trying to bring in, by playing it on MTV, because MTV has really changed. It's not what it used to be in the 80s and 90s when it first came on. I don't even know it's MTV anymore. So that's unique.
It's mostly that show ridiculousness for 36 hours a day, but it's that'll be interesting to show music on MTV again. There might be music. I don't watch MTV anymore, but I almost guarantee they're going to break it up into YouTube clips as well. So they'll probably have it by performance by each member. Each group will have their own little video on their YouTube channel. I would hope.
Yeah, with them doing like talking heads too, like where they
great.
Catch them off stage and talking about the songs and things like that.
It'd be awesome if they did that kind of setup. Actually, I was going to ask you. We know the Beach Boys were there, and their seating arrangement. A lot of people have been kind of, it's interesting. Mm-hmm. Have you talked to any of them in terms of like, did they? I'm sure they chatted, but like, did they have a good time seeing each other? Do you know anything about their camaraderie at that point?
Well, that's an interesting question. There's two things I'll say about that. The first is, as I know them, which again isn't, as we touched on it in the last interview, I don't know them.
Yeah.
I do know certain qualities of them. And it's, one of the things I didn't mention in our interview before was I've actually, and this is so strange, but it happened for me. I was backstage at Bryant at some venue, and it was a handful of years ago, where I think we're in a catering room or something. And and he was just sitting there. You know, we weren't talking or anything. And I felt Mike's presence. Now, that was really interesting to me because I was just like, that's strange. I wasn't saying anything to him. I didn't want to disrupt anything.
Yeah.
But I felt Mike. I felt it. And then, so that must have been around 2015 or so, because I remember 2016, I had gone to Washington, D.C. because Mike, they were playing the, where they do the honors, the Kennedy Center. It was at the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
And so I was there, and I was backstage, and I had a moment with Mike, and I said, you know, I was sitting with Brian, and I felt you, and it was odd because at no point did I feel Brian when I was backstage with Mike. I didn't feel Brian.
Yeah.
But the second Mike took the stage, Brian was there. It was so unique to me that without Brian saying a word, I felt Mike's presence. And then when Mike takes the stage, Brian's spirit is every 100% there. And that's what I'll say about Mike's show, is that if anybody loves Brian's music, and another reason to tune into the Grammy special, that you know, that is, and you can fish all you want. You can go to YouTube, you can find all sorts of interviews, little snippets and this, that, and everything. And now we have artificial intelligence. There's no telling what people will be saying, but you know, you can find snippets of Brian saying something for a second, 30 seconds or 20-second snippet of, oh, Brian said this about Mike, you know, at one time when he was asked. And Brian's a lead-in question guy. If the interviewer says to Brian, I've heard that you and Mike don't get along, right? So we talked about this before with the Beatles anthology and how you pin a person down. Right. So if you lead Brian with a question like that, then his mind is in that place.
He'll go there. Yeah.
He'll go there. And so that was not, so a lot of people have asked questions of Brian like that. And that all that's doing is just going, we're going to get the answer we want so we can we're going to build Brian up and we're going to knock Mike down, which is an incredible waste of time. It's an incredible waste of time. Right. Mike is probably Brian's biggest fan.
I believe it.
You look at just recently, Stamos did a thing with Josh Adams Meyer, I think his name is, on the Big 500. It's a podcast. And John got Mike to come on towards the very end. And one of the first things Mike starts talking about is nobody can touch what Brian did. And the whole time they were doing the reunion tour, and Mike and Brian would do a guest appearance on any given show. Mike and Brian would be sitting right next to each other. This guy's the guy. This is the guy. This is the guy with the, you know, there's never been a time in Mike Love's life ever where he has said anything disparagingly about Brian and his gift. Ever.
Absolutely.
Ever. So I know them enough to say that I'm sure that when they were all sitting together, I don't think the arrangement of who was sitting where has got anything to do with anything. I think, from what I understand, Brian had to be helped to sit down.
Yeah, he had a walker. Yeah.
So they obviously had to have him on an end seat, right? Yep. So there's that. Okay, so that's just fact. That's not an opinion of who wanted to sit where or anything like that. Right. So Brian would have either been on that end or the other end. Okay, so Mike was on the other end. It's not, they're on opposite ends because they bullshit.
I know a lot of people have been wondering.
It's just too much to even think about, you know. And that takes, and you know what that does? That takes so much away from the beauty of what this celebration represents. That we're even going to be worried about the seating arrangement of where everybody is, because I'll tell you, as I mentioned in our interview before, that I've told them all I love them. The main reason I love them all is because I see how much true love they have for each other. That you get them away from you get it all away. And if you're just talking about music and you're talking about the appreciation of what they've created together, they are all in sync 100%.
Yeah.
Just 100%. They all get it. Um,
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely. I
it's
mean,
so that's all I have to say about the seating arrangement. Okay, so maybe and have a little fun with this, right? So they show up and there's cards on each chair, like as if
yeah.
you're at a
Right.
wedding, like a
Yeah.
table assignment or something. No, oh Mike, you can't sit there. Yes. Now I can see Bruce doing that, like Bruce
Yeah.
showing up and like you see him.
Push them around. Yeah.
Yes, no, it's too much. It's again. I did read some comments when the pictures were posted of the guys sitting together up at the, and this thought process of, oh, there's this or that, or the reason they're there. Oh, look at that. And it's just, no, come on, folks. Come on.
I mean, my only takeaway from that is that a lot of new fans are so excited to see them together for the first time because they may have missed the 2012 reunion. So in the back of their mind, they're just going off negative history they've read about the band. Every band has hard times, but
Yeah.
I think they were just excited to sort of jump into are they still feuding bandwagon? It's like, no, they already sat down.
They're too old to worry about feuding.
I know they don't care anymore at this point, probably.
No, they just want things easy. We touched on
Yeah.
that when we talked before. They're 80 something years old. They don't,
Yeah.
there's no,
You
they
get
don't
through
have
all that
time
stuff.
for
I
it.
mean,
They're
yeah.
just, where do I need to be? When do I need to be there? What do you think I should wear?
Yeah.
That's the extent of the thought.
Yep. I mean,
They've been doing it for so long. Now, look at it from Mike's perspective for a moment, because he's the one who tours as much as he does with Bruce.
yeah.
Okay, so on my itinerary today is this. Okay, well, no, I'm not playing a venue. We're going to go to the Grammy. It's at the Dolby Theater. What time am I supposed to be there?
Right.
Jackie, what do you think I should wear?
Yeah.
It's the extent of it. There's no, when I get there, I better be able to sit where there's none of that. There's none of that. I don't even know that they know, and I could be wrong. I'm wrong often, but I don't know that they knew where they were going to be sitting. Maybe somebody probably told them over the phone, or maybe the Grammy people sent out the information to them. We're going to have you up, overlooking the stage or something. I don't know. Again, I don't know enough about those things. Bruce worked with the Grammy. He the Grammys. Bruce had actually worked with the Grammys. He was on the board for something with them. He would have insight to that process, but that's not going to be something I pester him about, But no. I do think it's funny. I should ask him, hey, did you move the seating arrangement? That's funny. Just the idea, because I'll share this with you. This is just nothing to do with this. But years ago, Bruce and I were having, I think, lunch together. And he told me when he was on tour in '66, I think it was, he was reading some book that Carl wanted to read after him. He said, hey, I'm interested in that book. You let me read it when you're done. He said, sure. And then he said he finished the book, and then he got a razor blade, and he carefully trimmed out the last page so he couldn't tell it was missing. And then he gave the book to Carl, purposely so that the book would not have an ending. For that reason, I can see Bruce moving the seat. If there was seat assignments, I could see him monkeying with it just to go.
Absolutely.
That's type of thing. Man. But anyway, so but yeah, I'm now, thanks to you now, I'm much more looking forward to this Grammy event and what it's going to represent, and it will be nice to see the guys' faces.
Yes.
I think it's kind of cool that for people who are actually there, that we're able to kind of look up and gauge reactions and things like that. Again, in that promo, the Grammy promo, you see all of 2-3 seconds where I think David Marks is up like this, or the guys are waiting or something. It's so brief. But how do you, as a member of the Beach Boys, and I don't say this lightly, the most important American rock band of its time, not just show up, sit back and go, we've earned this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The rest of it, and they all have earned it, and the thing is, Carl and Dennis are no longer here. But to be worried about who is sitting where it's such a silly thing when this is a night of honoring as much as it is the surviving guys as it is Carl and Dennis and what they brought to the overall sound of the group. So that's what it is. And anything else is just excess baggage that doesn't even need to be. We don't need to busy our minds with that type of thing.
Absolutely.
At least I don't.
I'm the exact same way. I mean, do you think Blondie or Ricky should have been there? Up on the.
I think to speak to that, it looks like that's where they were sitting. We had just enough room to hold the 5 of them up there.
Yeah, it looked like it.
If it had been maybe a slanted thing where there was like a second row behind, they could have done that, and maybe they could have done that. I think Ricky and Blondie absolutely 100% deserve to be recognized as group members for their time with the group. And I thought the Sail on Sailor box set did a fantastic job of doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to.
Whether or not they should be a part of other things, I'm not. That's not my pay grade. If they were, I would love it because of the spirit of the occasion.
Yeah.
But Sail on Sailor is being performed. That's a Blondie Chaplin song. He was the lead guy in the original version. So that's as much as a recognition of Carl's, and Brian and the guys who originally created it. So that's a nod to Blondie. Ricky never did sing any officially released Beach Boy tracks.
True. Yeah.
Look what Ricky did. I mean, I'm sure Ricky's probably a part of Rolling Stone things or Bonnie Raitt things, right? I mean, I'm sorry, Blondie was with the Rolling Stones. I'm sorry, I got that confused.
Yeah, but
Ricky is with Bonnie Raitt. It's not as though these guys aren't recognized for their musical contributions in the world. It's just, I think Beach Boy fans, again, tend to, just as I had in our initial discussion, thinking, oh, I don't see I'm not going to watch it. Get off my lawn, whatever, is just step back, appreciate what's actually taking place, love it for what it is, or don't. But this is, if the Beach Boys are your favorite group, if they're genuinely the band that you listen to the most and you can't get enough of, and because you love what the music does to you, then that's all you need. That's all you need. Whether or not you make up the decision to watch something or see something, but I don't want, nobody should watch this if they're gonna sit there and dissect the seating arrangement and worry about who's not there. That's a detracting experience.
You're already going in negative.
Well, yeah, why bother tuning in, right?
I mean, don't watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, and the other thing I want to touch on, because John Stamos is a part of this special. John Stamos is, I believe, the best positive person to come into the Beach Boys world, not musically, but the best positive person influentially to come into their stratosphere, to their umbrella, when he did. Because, boy, tickets sell when John Stamos is on the bill with Mike and Bruce.
Uncle Jesse's up there. People are going to watch.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, John Parks, who anybody who reads ESQ knows who John Parks is. He was Dennis Wilson's, one of his closest friends. They met in high school. And John has been spread throughout several editions of ESQ, including the last one, which we've got a lot of. So John toured with the Beach Boys too. It's Jon, John Parks. And John said to me, it's not something I included in any interview material because it didn't fit what I was talking about. But John was the one who, unsolicited, said to me, although he's never met John Stamos, he said that John Stamos reminds him the most of Billy Hinchy in terms of what Billy represented in terms of a positive person. So when John Parks unsolicited, John Parks, Dennis Wilson's friend, right? John Stamos is covered forever. So if John Parks had any issues with John Stamos whatsoever, that would have come out. It didn't come
Yeah.
out that way. It came out the opposite way. Like, isn't it cool that someone so positive and so tuned in and who truly loves the Beach Boys music,
Yeah.
truly, he's as much of an Uber fan as you and I are,
Oh, absolutely.
but he's just in
Yeah.
the spotlight so he can use it. He can use it for good, and he does use it for good. So I'm not saying that John Stamos is the best thing to happen to the Beach Boys musically. That's not that. Don't even think I'm saying that, because that's not true. That's not true. I am saying that John Stamos is a positive influence, a celebrity that constantly makes it a point to share with anybody who'll talk to him about it. You know, if he's talking about a Disney Plus Big Shot TV show that he's doing, and somebody happens to ask about the Beach Boys, he'll go there.
Oh yeah.
Even though his show's got nothing to do with it, he'll be in a second. He'll be there and
Yep.
he'll talk about it. And that's genuine love of the Beach Boys, which takes us back to, you know, who better than to go on stage and kind of introduce these acts and talk to these guys and bring more fans to this to see them.
Exactly.
It's a celebration of music. And John, you know, I cannot think of a better living, positive MC, because now John, sure, he appeals with Mike and Bruce, but he's not just a Mike and Bruce guy. He's a Beach Boys guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Beach Boys guy.
Yeah.
And he's always been. And you know, I talked about when we talked before in the first interview, we mentioned Wipeout, and I said to you, Carl wasn't in the video. That's all I needed to know. Right? Now, with Forever on Full House,
Mhm.
Carl was in the video.
He was.
That's all I needed to know. That's all I needed to know. See,
Yeah.
Carl participated. Carl believed. He supported. Carl would only do what he supported and believed in.
That's true. Yeah.
John Stamos is covering Carl's older brother's song Forever. And Carl signs up for it.
Absolutely.
So that should tell anybody who's a longtime Beach Boy fan who might be over in that little pocket of going, how dare John Stamos record Forever? And, you know, who does he think he is? And he besides, he did his Jesse and the Rippers.
Yeah.
That's fictional character, you know, whatever. The point is, he put it on a major television show that turned on. So, you know, he says this all the time. He tells me all the time. People walk up to him and go, thanks to you, you know, our wedding song was Forever.
Yep.
And just like I said, Audrey Wilson with a Good Vibration, now we're talking about Long Live Dennis Wilson. Dennis wrote the song. So what if John Stamos did it? It's even better, because look at the fact that Dennis Wilson lives on in Full House is insane to me. It's beautiful though.
It's incredible. I mean, so many people I knew, because I grew up in the 90s. We grew up with that show. And for a lot of people, that's how we learned about who the Beach Boys were, was that show.
Yes.
So like, it's really cool that he had them on, because that opened up the whole generation of 90s kids that grew up with that stuff.
Right. And did you ever feel like, once you discovered the Beach Boys through that show and got more into the Beach Boys, did you ever kind of at any time go, boy, that Full House, man, I just don't know. Why were they on there or anything like that derogatory? See,
Never.
that's what I try to get
Never.
people to understand. That for us, the long time, the older, you kids get off my lawn. You know, us older Beach Boy fans who think we know better, because Dennis isn't here. Would Dennis have a lot? Dennis would have been right on board.
Oh, he would have loved it.
He would have been on TV. He would have been in the video with him.
He would have loved it. Loved it.
Loved it. You know,
Yeah.
girls, we can get on a show and get more girls. You know, are you kidding? He would have been all over it.
Yeah, totally.
I just hate that he missed it.
Yeah.
That's really the only shame of that. You know, the only, you know, kind of, you know, unfortunate reality of all that is that Dennis wasn't alive to see his song celebrated on such a level that so many people, thanks to John Stamos, thanks to John Stamos, get married to that song.
It still blows my mind. It's such a quiet little album track that so many people slept on in those 20 years, and all of a sudden it's on national TV, and it's a big. I did it. Long story short, I used to do Facebook cover. I would do a cover song on Facebook and put the video up. I remember putting up a cover Forever one time, and so many people I knew were like, this is a Beach Boys song? I thought they wrote this for Full House, didn't they? Like, no, it's a cool Beach Boys song. So, to this day, it still baffles people, and people know about it through Full House. So it's great. I think it's cool.
So I love the fact that it has this dual promised, no, not promise, but just life of it, about it.
Double life, yeah.
If you're a huge Beach Boy fan from deep catalog, then you love it on Sunflower.
Yep.
As you would love all of Dennis's songs on Sunflower.
Right.
Because he just kicks ass on that
album for him. Yeah.
It's so great. He's so great. But then, you come years later, and then here's this guy, this, in quotes, Hollywood guy, who just happens, because he loves Sunflower just as much as you and I do.
So cool.
And he's got the pull to go to the group and go, hey, do you mind if I do this? First of all, because that's how he did it. John never just assumed anything was okay. Yeah. Because they even set up the two-part episodes that way, where Bruce and Mike come to the house and they're having fried chicken or something, and then they make it look so easy. John says, hey, I'd really like to do that song forever. And Bruce goes, you want it? You got it. I thought, okay, sure. If only it were that easy. But they just show it. They show enough of the fictional kind of handoff. Yeah. As Jesse and the Rippers. Now, I don't think that Forever should have been on Summer in Paradise, because it was done as Jesse and the Rippers. And I think now if they had included Forever on Summer in Paradise, but with maybe a Carl lead and John singing background, or John doing the drums, right? That would have been like, okay, so this is this points to one another, right? As long as you include Stamos on it, if you had Stamos on drums or singing background to Carl, where they flip their roles, right. That would have been cool, because that would have pointed to Full House, and then Full House would have pointed because Stamos in several episodes had like the Summer in Paradise poster on his wasn't it like when he and Joey were DJs or something, or had their own
at the radio station there. He was the biggest proponent of that album.
Yeah.
He was the one who promoted it.
Yeah. I think he was the only one.
The one, yeah.
But anyway, I just think I can't, I've not at any time in my life thought John Stamos, Beach Boys bad. Ever.
No, I never have either.
Ever.
No.
That group.
I felt like that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was just going to say the group is lucky. They have someone like him in his role as a very present person in the television and world that he can be such a voice for them. Just very lucky, very fortunate.
Absolutely. I mean, and for me, the Beach Boys have always been a lot of people. Granted, it's the standard five as we come to think of it, but there's been a lot of Beach Boys, a lot of touring musicians that have been there forever. The Beach Boys DNA, there's a lot of people involved in that story. So for me, I've always thought of John Stamos as honorary Beach Boy, which a lot of people kind of go, no, he's not, but he is. Let's be honest.
Well, honorary. I think he's right there in the same category, like with Jeff Foskett. It's one thing to be a band; it's a touring band member. But there's other names that come immediately to mind. I think Gary Griffin. I think Ed Carter, Mike Kowalski, Daryl Dragon. These and the list goes on. Yeah. The list goes on, and again, this I guess this is what something like a 60-year tribute does. You do get to talk. We do find ourselves talking about all these other figureheads or integral figures in the band's history. And John Stamos, like it or not, and I like it.
I do too.
Because I've seen the effect it has on my son and how much he loves. I'll share this. John makes it a point on my son's birthday to do Zoom with him.
That's awesome.
John is a legit good person. So I may be a little biased, because when anybody ever does something nice for you or your family, their stock automatically goes up.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
And for those who don't know, my son Ethan is 21. He has Down syndrome, and he thinks Forever is from Full House. Now, I've shown him Sunflower. I've even played Forever for him from Sunflower. And I had to explain to him it was actually written by Dennis Wilson. So he understands who Dennis is, that he was the original drummer of the group. But Ethan still makes that connection more with, as generations do, who grew up watching Full House, that this is the, you know, John Stamos is connected to that song forever, whether we like it or not. So I think it's a beautiful, I think it's a beautiful thing, because there's nothing, it's a beautiful song.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
John doesn't exactly knock it out of the park, but he does a very respectable job with it.
Yeah. He still does. He performs it every time he plays with them live. He still does Forever. And
yeah, so it's a nice moment for all the girls. You know, now I went in 2014, the first show I actually took Ethan to. John happened to be there. I didn't even know that John was gonna be playing with the guys. And so he and Ethan hit it right off. And but it was interesting. But the first thing I noticed, because it was the first show I'd ever been to with Stamos at a show.
Yeah.
And the amount of screaming when he took the stage, I went, okay. I mean, it got pretty loud. I said, this is the first time I've experienced this. Because even that was 2014. So even the 2012 tour, with all the guys on stage together again, playing just my favorite moments when they added "Oh, This Is That" to their set list, and then they did add some music in the second once their tour got going, and I saw them down in Orange County in Irvine. I was at that show, and I got to watch it from the bleachers. They had like a metal spiral staircase on either side of the stage. So I watched the first half of the show from my seat, and then I went backstage and I went up this. I was on Bruce's side of the stage. So if you're looking at the stage, my right, and so I was up above him, looking on the spiral staircase, looking down. So that's what I got to see. Add some music to your day at the piano from that perspective. And I got to see the Beach Boys sing California Girls in California. So that was like a bucket list.
That's pretty insane, man.
but that was all very cool, but not the girl screaming thing.
Yeah.
It was more like erupting applause. It wasn't girl screaming. When Stamos took the stage 2 years later, it was girl screaming. And
I mean, he'll be 80 and it's still going to happen. It's Stamos. Everyone screams for Stamos.
Now when you say that, I have this really weird thought of concern where I go, oh, I hope that he doesn't become the Beach Boys. And you know.
That's an interesting concept. That's
I think it would be interesting that if he did like his own music project and then had different people guest with him, because he knows so many people who are in music. He could have Mike on a track, Bruce on a track, whatever you're doing. But it would.
I'll play drums for him. If he wants a drummer, I'll play drums for him.
There you go. There you go. Well,
well, this has been a fascinating conversation, David. This has been really cool to chat about this Grammy stuff and some extra things on top of that. I'm really stoked to watch this thing when it comes out. We'll definitely chat again after, so we can do a recap of how we felt about the special. But yeah, thanks again so much for doing this. And everybody, watch this show coming up on Sunday night. If you're watching this before Sunday, it's coming out Sunday night, CBS. And we'll catch up soon.
All right.
There you go.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.